We have Gerry OHara here, and he's a social media marketer, graduated in 2015, I believe, from Canada West University, and has had a lot of great experience working for a few companies doing content for their clients. But he goes a little bit more than that. He's actually doing some of the copywriting and also email marketing as well as social media. So it all plays into what a company needs. So Gerry, could you tell me a little bit of your background as you grew up and what things influenced you to get into choosing social media as your avenue to career?
I was born in Toronto. I lived there till I was 10. Then my dad got a job in Ottawa. So we all moved to Ottawa. And when I was trying to figure out my career, or basically the first major influence of my life was my dad, because one day when I was 15 or 16 years old, we were driving home and he asked me, what do I want to do? And being 15, 16, I had no idea, as most people that age do. So he made some suggestions to me. I like computers, so try computer programming or electrical courses. And I tried those in school, but I was not really that handy with it. Or the computer programming course they were doing, the coding, it was an old style that if you make one mistake, they're not going to show you where it is. So you have to keep looking through it. And that was so frustrating for me. So I didn't like either of those. But there was also business and marketing courses that I started taking since
Mhm.
grade 10. And I really enjoyed those. So after trying everything else, I was just left with business and marketing as the only thing I was taking in high school that I enjoyed. Also, one of the great business sort of marketing teachers in the high school there, Mr. Oka, he was very entertaining. He explained the stuff very well. And I just, it really helped for me to enjoy doing those courses. So when I was going to university, I decided to go into marketing.
You definitely had a great mentor,
Yeah.
someone there that you know maybe just been a basic teacher in the early years, but that really set you up great. So you knew what direction you wanted to get into when you went to university. A lot of people, Gerry, those first couple of years, they're still lost in the university. It seems like you got a little bit lucky there, a pinch of luck that you found a little something that was in your heart. But I can see the difference between electrical and computer programming. That to some people, it's tedious. It's just frustrating, and it's a part of your mind that's just not where you want to go. And then there's people like yourself that have some technical ability, obviously, but you have more of a creative bent because it takes creativity to be able to tell stories because that's what marketing's about. What you dove into. From what I understand, you were doing the content for companies, working through who was it? Veritas? I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
There it is.
Eritis, there you go. Thank you. So Eritis was probably an influence there to get you on the right footing as well. Was that after college or during?
That was after college. I I applied to the job online. I got to meet the owner. It was more of a startup. It was only about a year or two into creating it. So he basically spent a lot of time with a lot of the people who would sign up for his company and really teach them all he knew about whether it's marketing or business or computer pro or website design. There were so many fields. I think he was spending most of his day working with all the new employees to teach them how to do the job.
That's kind of funny. Sometimes people come out of college and it just shows you what they got out of it was they can be taught. And then once you get into working for a company, that's when you really learn. That's when it really can take off for you. But I think it's a lot to do with experience and getting those first few years behind you. And you've done that already. What's the direction you're going now? What are you into now?
I am doing a lot of freelance work right now. I'm just looking for new clients or any new business that would like to hire me.
How do you go about that? Is it a consulting work in the beginning to interview what the people's problems are to so that you can come up with a solution? How does that work?
The first call, generally a Zoom call, it's really just a bunch of questions to see where they're at. They could be a really new company that like they may have done a little themselves, or they may be a more developed company who's already hired someone and is looking for someone new. But you've got to go through like a job interview essentially just to figure out what the company has done, what they want to do, what their budget is, where they want to go, and what they can do.
And then you come back with a solution, I imagine,
Yes.
and then it's off to the races from there.
Yep. That's it.
I understand you have a special way of starting out with a company because sometimes it takes time to test a few things to get up to speed and start to show results. How do you set that up? What are you doing to get a company out of the gate?
I offer 25% off for the first 3 months. First, you got to see what will actually work for them, because you can't be just like, oh, Facebook is the biggest social media site out there. We can just use that and it will be fine for every company. No, if the demographics, like I remember when I was talking to you earlier, when you were working with older audience, 55 to 80 for a gym.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and when you tried your Facebook marketing, it wasn't really working because generally the rule is there are significantly less older people on social media, but when you tried the email marketing, it worked well.
They're probably
So
on there for their grandchildren and children to stay
yeah,
connected and their friends, and they're
yeah,
just not that amenable to advertising or promotions on their feed. They're just,
yeah,
it was very disheartening because I'd seen it work for all types of industries in Facebook, but Facebook's not it's not the answer to everything. So I agree with you. And I had to find out the hard way. But what do? You pivot. And I found that email marketing
yeah.
and targeting the market directly through email marketing worked. So I'm totally in agreement with you with the way you went about it, the way you're going about it for sure.
Yeah. Also, in that 3 months, it's going to take time to get traction, because it's not, oh, I posted something for you on Facebook. The next day, you have a 30% increase. It is unfortunately not that quick. It will take a few months to actually see some increase and to actually move forward. So when they're struggling, I will help them out a little. So when they start profiting from the work, we can both profit together.
You want to get it to pay for itself so that it's something they'll always want to keep because you're taking them the right direction and they can start to grow. So there is a ramping up of social media campaigns and email campaigns too, because it might take seventh or eight touches before people go from just thinking about, oh, that's a good idea, maybe I'll do that, to actually taking action. So yeah, staying in touch and being consistent with your storytelling and ads that tell stories can make the difference. So that first 3 months, quite a bit of testing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. There's a lot of testing, and finally, when you find something that works, you can keep going in that direction, and hopefully it's soon enough that the client isn't, oh, I'm not really seeing anything, and it's, why am I still doing this? Maybe if I'm getting the same results, I'll just save the money and not do it. Yeah,
It's a performance-based thing. That's why you'll give a good discount in the first 3 months because it's worth it's almost getting a month free out of that first 3 months, nearly. It's a pretty good deal to work with you. Some seems like it'd be easy to work with. That's awesome. I've got to ask you, it might be a little personal, maybe, I don't know, but that uh, portrait that's just above you there, it's really interesting. What's the story on that?
This is one of my Opa's paintings. That's Dutch for grandfather. I'm Dutch
Uh-huh.
on my mother's side. He worked as a chemical engineer, but when he retired, and basically what he really loved to do in life was paint. Oh, I've been able to get a few of his paintings over the years.
That's a beaut. It's got a nice tones, all the
Yeah,
colors just gel together, but yet
yeah,
it's got kind of a Picasso look to it in a way, that impressionistic kind of thing going on. It's great. And it means a lot to you, obviously, being from Opa.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really something in of itself. You've worked with a variety of business people already, providing the social media content and web content, I imagine, and the email services campaigns that you've worked on. Is there one thing, though, that you recommend a business should do? Myself, I think it's consistency, that whatever you choose
Yeah.
to do, if you're going to put out content, it should be regularly expected so that people get used to seeing it on a certain day, a certain time, that certain things get posted. And I guess there's a science to when is the best time as far as what the business needs to do when they need to get in front of people.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
I think the two things I'd have would be consistency and adaptability.
Oh,
You got
yeah.
to you got to put out like a certain amount of content, like enough to keep your audience interested. Because if you haven't posted in a month or so on a social media site, no one is going to come back to the site, to the page. And how many people are you going to draw in with the old stuff that really isn't being sent out again? You, yeah. And you also have to adapt because every few months, every social media site, definitely Google, like about every 6 months, is going to change its algorithm. And
Oh, yes.
and the thing is, if you don't adapt to it, for Google, you'd follow Neil Patel. There's there's social media marketers like Gary Vaynerchuk, that if you follow these people, they will also provide information about, oh, this new algorithm, this has changed. You need to follow someone that will talk about the algorithm. So it's okay. I had a dip for a few days a week, not I've lost all my revenue this month because the new algorithm is not sending out my information anymore. I'm not as popular as I was. I'm not reaching as many people.
Yeah, I think websites are a living document in of itself. And of course, social media is the breath. It's the oxygen. And if you don't keep breathing in new content, it'll go stale pretty quickly. So I can see why some companies, not all companies, but quite a few, will put a social feed on their website. And I suppose that's a way to get them off of social media and get them to their website. Imagine that's part of the game as well. Yeah, keeping fresh content and keeping it regular seems to be the recipe for some success with social media. So if you drop off, if I understand you right, you drop off and a month goes by and you haven't done anything, and then you start, no matter how good that article you just popped in there, you may have lost a lot of traffic, that a lot of people that would have seen it had you been more regular with it.
Yeah.
So is there a blend, or do you separate, say, education type of content versus entertainment type of content? Is or do you try to mix the two to keep it serious but fun? How do you go about that? Being that you do quite a bit of content.
I'd mix the two, or I'd mix like a lot of things in. Because if you're just posting educational things, a lot of people may get bored. They don't always want to read something educational. If they see something entertaining one day, especially if they're not having a good day, and it's, oh, I got a laugh out of this, I they can associate the company with something positive then, and it may
Very good.
draw them
Yeah.
back. Yeah. And then after you've given them a little education, a little entertainment, then you can throw in a sales pitch. Is, oh, this week we have this new thing coming out. We're offering 20% off this week, or oh, Black Friday's coming up. We're going to have this sale. Because if you push too much of one thing, you will kind of draw them away, especially the sales. Like if you're posting 3, 4 times a week and they're all just sales, you're going to push your audience away.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Certainly. How about varying the sale offers? Instead of always doing 20% off, but to mix it up. I find that quite a few people just make purchases different ways. One way, this one offer appeals to people versus another, but yet the outcomes might be the same as far as what they get and the price they make the purchase at may actually work out the same, but the strategy of how it's presented could be quite different. What's your thinking on that?
First, the 20%, I just threw that out there as a random
Oh yeah,
number.
yeah.
Vary on the thing and the margin on it. If there's a huge margin, say 25% off, knocking 20% off is fine. But if the margin is closer to 10, maybe only a 10% sale. Or if it's like a really high ticket item, like I know a lot of video game stations, like I used to work in retail, so I know that they more than double the price at a store. So they could knock 50% off and they'd still make money on it during a huge sort of Black Friday sale. It's all about the margins and how much someone would want, say, maybe even a higher ticket item if you're knocking 10% off of it. But it's, oh, I really want this one. And and I'm going to save a little, so I'll still get it, even though it's only 10, not 20 like the last one. But that was for something I didn't want.
Seems to make sense there when if it's a high ticket item, say $1,000, to say 10% off, would it be better to say $100 off? They say the same, it says the same thing, but
Yeah.
one might have more impact than the other. I suppose it has to do with who's the purchaser and what do they like to respond to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that too. There are many complex things that
Yeah, it is.
you'd have to look at each product, each margin, each time of the sale to figure out which way of putting it and how much to do.
I found a bit of success in some of the work I used to do with short videos on Facebook. The video can really do a lot. It can do that, be entertaining. It's got to be that, but also get a message across fairly quick. And there's just so much information in a video that can be passed on versus text, that kind of thing. Are you using very much in the way of video? Is it kind of a mix for you in the work you do?
A lot of what I have done is just more of a picture and a little bit of writing, but going to look more into video now as it seems a great way to go. Also, all you can say in a like 30-second, 1 minute video, if you type that out, you would really have to expand the little area for it that someone would have to click on that. They'd have to spend the time. I just don't think you can really get across as much information with text on social media versus a video because no one will want to read it because they want to spend only a few seconds or so on on each little article and move on. Maybe they'll spend longer for a video, but they don't want to read huge articles, especially if they're ads or postings from a business.
So when you're using images, which you've done a lot of work on, I imagine I can see that as being part of the story of what's in the text and that the two come together. And these days, a lot of graphics are added to photographs. It's made into what you call a meme. And memes can be funny or they can be educational, be a lot of things. What's your take on using memes?
Well, I've always enjoyed humor as a
Ah,
form of
yes.
advertising. So if I'm working with a company that's interested in it, we could use a meme. We could see you first just have to write something funny, but assuming you can make something funny and good, then I definitely encourage that as an option.
It holds people's attentions and possibly they even remember it more or they tell others what they saw. Yeah, humor's great for that. Absolutely. This has been a great conversation, Gary. Yeah, Jerry, is there anything that you'd like to add? Why don't we just, I'm going to cut this part. Let me start over on that.
Yeah,
Jerry, could you just go over the offer, how you work with companies for me again, and just kind of lay it out there, what your offers are and how you go about it?
sure. My initial offer is sort of 25% for 3 months, and that allows me to figure out what types of marketing to use, whether it's email marketing, whether it's social media, and then what sites. Because everyone only has so much time, or for when you're paying someone to do something, you can only afford to pay them so much. So I want to do only the effective things for them. And this way, they have some space, they have a lower rate that we can see what's most effective for them. And we can go from there to see how much they would like to do, how long they would like to do it, how often they would like to be posted for, everything they want on whatever sites they want, email, whatever they want. And they can even increase in 3 months or 6 months time as they increase, as they make more money from these marketing ventures.
Yeah, that's Jerry stepping on the gas when
Yeah,
you found the effective tools that are working, and now you can really ramp it up. And that's a great way to explain it to companies that I have this testing period where we go through a lot of things. Some of it's effective, some of it needs to be tweaked. And that's what we do the first 3 months. Then, after we have found what works, and then we step up and we can look at the budget again and go from there. That's that's got to appeal to most companies, I would think. I think you've got a great offer there, Jerry. I want to thank you for the time today.
yeah,
I think we covered some great ground, and it's always great to meet someone who knows quite a bit, but actually applies it and has had success with social media marketing, be it whatever platform it is. Super. Thanks again.
yeah.
Thumbs up.
Thanks, Michael.